Thank you very much for taking the time to have this discussion with us. I mean, 2020's obviously been a unique year in terms of the marketing service industry and the rest of the world. What has it highlighted to you about the Mission Group?
I think so. I mean, firstly, it has been unprecedented, I think is probably a often used word. But I think for us, really, it's a few things have really come to the fore. Firstly, that entrepreneurial culture on which the group was built has really come to the fore. I mean, we are all significantly invested in the group. And when you get challenging times, such as those at the height of it back in March, that's been really kicked in. You know, people were planning for the worst, but striving for the best. So we made very swift, very important decisions, but put in place proactive measures, first and foremost, to really just protect the business. You know, you kind of kick into survival mode before you can then look to strive and build it forward and then sort of, repair the business as it's been affected by those conditions. And I suppose this comes to sort of the second thing that I really saw across the group is putting those measures in place, and the way that the group and the board has reacted, I think has been in a very sort of human and decent way. I mean, it's very aware, it's acutely aware that the decisions it makes affects people's personal surroundings as well as their business surroundings as well. Fortunate enough, and we've said this, and I've spoken to you about this before, just in terms of the length of our client relationship. So we've got a really deep understanding of our clients' businesses. But at times like these, you need to really leverage that understanding and sort of see what they go through as people, as well as businesses, and be there to support them, and not really try and satisfy your short-term goals, but really take a longer-term view and actually really deliver on the value that we have within the business, which is that we are a partner for those clients and those clients that entrust us with their business. And I think the last part of that kind of acting in a human and decent way is just not passing the pain on. I mean, we have suppliers ourselves, and obviously we have a number of contracts and commitments, and it would just be easy, but really irresponsible just to sort of pass that pain on. Maybe we're feeling a pinch point here, but we'll pass it through. So again, as a board, very conscious not to do that, to act in a human and decent way. I think also in the first half of the year, I've really seen the group at its sort of most proactive and innovative best. No one sort of sat back and let whatever it was going to be happen to them. You know, they've really gone out there and they've asked how they can drive revenue, how they can look at new opportunities that might emerge, and what they would need to do to sort of satisfy that, to help their business, themselves, and the group. And I suppose the best example of this was the Pathfinder Safe Distancing Assistant, which is a great example of a team that repurposed, they launched, and then started trading with a new product within the space of a matter of weeks. So, you know, really good examples of sort of seeing the group, as you say, at its best.
How have your clients adapted to this situation?
It's really hard to give you a singular answer to this because we've got such a diverse set of clients, and obviously that stood us in good stead because it does give us balance rather than overexposure, which is obviously not what you want at this point in time. That said, I mean, the sector, it's been well documented, but it has had the most pronounced effect within the group is property and the events businesses that we have. Actually, at their peak, in a like-for-like basis, there was a shortfall in revenue year on year of around about 80%. So very sharp effect at the start of the pandemic. But fortunately, again, going back to that balanced portfolio, that has been offset by really strong trading, certainly in technology and healthcare, where they're posting a year-on-year increase. So again, it just highlights the strength of that diverse nature of our client base. I think those deeply affected sectors are, again, going back to that word innovate, are really innovating to stimulate revenue and new revenue opportunities. I mean, our events business, as you can imagine, most events companies have been hit hard. But that's now at the forefront of hosting virtual events. They've won 10 projects, they've already delivered one, and are seen to be at the forefront of that technology being embraced by that particular sector. So much so that I know you're familiar with, but others might not be, this new hybrid model that is emerging, which is really fusing the virtual with the physical, but it leverages everything else that we have within the group with regards to that content delivery and delegate management, and also information as well. So really, really strong again in terms of that innovation. And I suppose lastly, and should point out, we didn't have and we don't have an exposure to travel or tourism, and certainly not in our top 20 clients. So again, that's really helped us at this particular period.
What changes has the management team made to the business in order to protect the balance sheet?
I think there's three areas to this. The first is people. We are a people business. Obviously, our most significant outlay is our people. So, and I have mentioned this before, the job retention scheme was a fantastic scheme for us. And actually, probably nearly at its peak, around a third of our total workforce has benefited from that scheme, and that's being able to access that scheme. A third of that number was in Think BDW, which is our property business, because of that pronounced effect and that effect that it had very quickly and very sharply across our group. We also have to look at the permanent workforce that we need going forward, and looking at the structures that we would need for the rest of this year and going to next year. And that has meant some very difficult decisions, but all of those decisions have now been made. And we are now aligning our cost base with the revenue forecast that we're anticipating for this year and into 2021. So we have done that rebasing, difficult as it has been as well. From our place perspective, using another P, we have reviewed our London properties. We did have 4 properties within the M25. We're actually going to shrink that down to 2 because we want to continue to embrace, and I suppose, borrow that word for ourselves, this hybrid way of working. We've also leveraged all of the other government schemes and initiatives, but only if they have no business constraints. And I think that's very, very important. So we have looked at how we can manage that cash in the short term. Group-wide and across the board in the exec, we took 20% voluntary staff cuts, and again, difficult decisions, but with good grace, the group has accepted that, and really pleased and very appreciative of the employees that have taken that on board, and the need, they understood the need to take that on board. And then lastly as well, all capital expenditure obviously on hold, and we have had conversations and agreements have been reached with vendors of acquired businesses for delayed payment terms, just again in terms of preserving that cash for the short term. So we've had really strong and really good cash management measures in place right from the outset.
The statement refers to your Mission Made initiative. What commercial advantages will that give to the group?
Yeah, firstly, I should explain what Mission Made is. So again, we have 13, 15 businesses, depending upon the fascia that you're sort of like looking through, within the group, and all of those provide end-to-end services. So what we're looking at here is where there is replication across multiple businesses, can we do it in a slightly different way? And one of those opportunities is in digital production. So Mission Made is a 24/7 centralized digital production and innovation studio. We're launching it on the 1st of October, and it's going to be the digital production facility for 4 of our agencies from the outset. But over the next 18 months, we'll look to grow that and roll that out across more agencies. And the reason for doing that is it doesn't take away from the uniqueness of those agencies, which is all around their creative and strategic output, and indeed going into their creative delivery. But when we get into that made element, hence the name, we can consolidate that, have more of a shared service ethos, so it can serve all of the group with its digital and motion graphics production needs. So then what you get into is you get into those real business benefits. We will have an increase in utilization. There will be minimal downtime. We can minimize any agency freelance expenditure, because that might be a need in one singular business, but when you map it across a number of businesses, that's not the case. And then also when we are investing in the next generation of digital skills required, we're having a singular investment conversation rather than multiple investment or business cases put across all of our businesses. So I suppose ultimately the goal will be, as Mission Made becomes mature, it can handle more businesses, the same as our shared services model, without increasing that cost. So again, much more efficient, a much better way of working, but at the heart of the group.
You recently made a small acquisition, Innovationbubble. What does that add to the group?
It's been a great acquisition. I mean, it's been very well received both internally and by all of our clients. And simply, they're a team of psychologists and behavioural scientists who understand how to access and measure the subconscious factors that drive people's decision making. So, in essence, the best way to think about it is 90% of the decisions that we make in a day are subconscious. And a lot of the research that's done within marketing and marketing services is post that decision, really getting to understand it. But if we can get pre that decision and really understand the whys, it's really, really powerful. So they're going to sit as another mission advantage, again, at the core of our business, so that they can be used and work with any of our agencies. They're not constrained by any particular one allegiance. And as you can imagine, this type of research or insight is more project-based, it's more consultative-based. So they might be working with one or several sort of agencies, and they may be working with another agency as well. So that's why it makes sense for them to sit at the heart of our business within that mission advantage. I think the other thing which is really good about Innovationbubble and makes them somewhat unique is that they are doctors in their field. There are a lot of emerging behavioural scientist consultancies or businesses out there, but they tend to be ex-people like me, you know, client service or strategists or planners from the advertising world, who are then going into, because it's a new area, it's a, you know, it's an on-trend, if you like, sort of area of marketing. But they're not bringing the depth or the rigour that Innovationbubble bring, because, as I say, they are doctors in their field. So it's a really neat fit for the group, and one that I'm really excited about, and delighted that we've got them as part of the mission.
Do you think the pandemic will have a lasting effect on the marketing service industry? Do you think there'll be structural change, or do you think it will revert to the way things used to be?
That is the question, and it's a very big question. I suppose I come at it slightly differently, if you take a slightly sort of different tact. If you sort of look at it from an industry perspective, but some of a purity of thought about marketing. I mean, marketing is to sort of define and explain the purpose of brands vying for consumers' attention. You know, they've got to find and engage a viable customer base, build active brand preference, and do that in a world now where everything's available to order on your smartphone, immediately direct to your door. You know, and the brand you choose needs to mean something clear, compelling, and memorable. So actually, if you view it as that's the classic remit of marketing, yes, it's more critical than ever, but has it differed? I mean, the choice of options is almost limitless. Your available mental bandwidth is constrained, and survival stakes are now really, really high. So the core challenge, the core task is still to identify and understand the customer. It's still to decide how and where to engage with them, distill the proposition, you know, get it into their personal world, make sure that the brand fits in an economic, functional, sort of societal and emotional way, if you like. And so when you view it through that lens, actually as a group, how we're structured, but how the industry is structured, we've just got to continue. And this is why Innovationbubble, I go back to why there was such an important acquisition within the group. You know, we're all about still unlocking the why, you know, having the ability to deliver innovative, compelling, creative solutions at every stage of that customer experience. And then really just having the depth and breadth of talent that allows you to deliver that for your clients. And that can be however they want it to be serviced. And marketeers are nothing if not adaptable. So that will be physically, virtually, or even in a hybrid model. And I think that's the way really to view it is, has the business need, has the task changed? I'd question not. Has it accelerated? Yes, very much so. And so will our infrastructure need to change or adapt? Well, you know, like any business, it will adapt and it will find a way. But as I say, the core need, I feel, is still very much the same.
Thank you, Jake.